sometimes you just have to go for it. You go, this is as good as I think that I can make this right now without driving myself insane. Release that, see how it does, and if it doesn't do super well, learn from it and come back and do another one.
Let me know.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. So, I guess I've already asked how you are off camera.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, I was interested in a few things. I wanted to focus quite a lot with the coverage we're doing on the community side of things.
Okay.
And obviously you've come through that into the actual Rooster Teeth.
Right,
family.
yeah.
So I think you're obviously a very good one to be interviewing. You started off, was it doing videos at, is it Community Hunter?
Yeah, so back in the day, there was a Community Hunter.
Yeah.
It was on AH Community Vids, which then became, I think, Let's Play Community is what it was called. And it was a channel where people could make Achievement Hunter style videos and then submit them to Caleb, and Caleb would watch them and then upload them. So it was like things to do's, back when This Is was a series, you know, not Let's Plays, but more like guides and things like that. So I watched Achievement Hunter, saw them doing that, and was like, me and my friends play video games. We like to talk while we play video games. Like, let's try and do some of these. And we did a bunch of things to do's. My first ones were awful, and like the video looked terrible, was edited poorly and everything. But slowly over time, just made videos on that channel, made my own series called Imaginary Achievements, and then yeah, it like really, it just got me on the radar of everyone at Achievement Hunter.
And you were actually hired at RTX in 2014, right?
Yes, I
and
was.
You didn't know that was happening?
No, all I knew is Caleb came up to Matt and myself and said, hey, we want to do something kind of funny at the panel because people ask all the time, how do I get a job at Achievement Hunter? It's a classic question.
Yeah.
And he's like, and we want to kind of deter people from doing that. So we want you two to come up, ask if you could be hired, and then we're going to like humiliate you. Like, we brought changes of clothes with us because we thought they were going to throw water on us and like just do all this stuff. So when we came up and asked the question, and then Jeff said, yeah, sure, you're hired. Like, we had no idea that that was the plan. We thought it was going to be this whole bit, this whole skit about something. And it ended up not being that.
It's like a thing.
All right, fuck it, you're hired.
Oh, sweet.
Hey, you're working now. Can we get these guys chairs?
So I actually spoke with Jeff, Gavin, and Michael last year here, and I think Jeff and Michael brought up this sort of like performance mode that they're like always in.
Yep.
It's like even when the cameras stop, they carry, you know, it's like when telling a story, for example, you exaggerate and you, as though there's a camera on you. And I think Jeff brought up that there's this very competitive side to being funny. Everyone wants to one-up each other. And I was wondering like how helpful that is, and if you did, you know, do you feel that same way? You go about?
I definitely understand the kind of on mode that you have to be in. Like everyone's character, I'll use that term, that they are in a Let's Play is really just an exaggerated version of their own personality. You know, like obviously Michael is a very loud, angry person, but like in normal life, it's not to the same extent that it is in videos, but it's not like that's not him. He'll rant about something that's pissing him off for like an hour if you let him. But, you know, it's like, yeah, you are trying, in terms of saying you want to one-up each other in terms of comedy, more what it is when you're in a video, your goal is to try and make the other people in the room laugh at what you're doing.
I think last time they said, if you can get a laugh out of a cameraman, you know you've done a good job.
Oh yeah, when you're filming something live action, if you can get the crew to laugh, or if we're doing off topic, or we can get broadcast to laugh, we've done something funny. In Let's Plays, which is the majority of like what we're filming, it's all about trying to get each other to laugh. Jack is always trying to make Jeff laugh at something. You know, I'm always trying to get Michael to laugh, because then we know that the joke landed for us. Like maybe it won't land for the audience as much, but like if we can make each other laugh, then we definitely did something funny.
Well, I was interested in, do you think that that's something that, like that sort of personality trait came about after you joined, or did you have that and that's part of the reason you ended up as the
I think it's a definite combination. I think the fact that I watched Achievement Hunter for so long before I joined really helped, because I knew everyone's sense of humor because I watched all the videos. I knew what they found funny. So I came in and, you know, just I was of course my own personality, but kind of knew how to mesh with people.
Okay.
But it still took, you know, a year to 2 years for me really to find my own groove. Because we've mentioned this before, when people come into our office and record with us, we have guests come in or other, you know, Let's Players that we're collabing with. When they come in, it's actually really intimidating for them. And we've been told this. They're like, it's such an intimidating environment to come into and say, hey, sit down with these 5 or 6 Let's Players and record a video, and we're all talking and making jokes and everything, but no one's really interrupting each other. We all have a rhythm as to like when we can talk and when we can tell a joke. And when people sit down, they don't know when they can talk and they don't know when they're supposed to jump in because we're just so used to it. It's second nature. So getting that took a lot of time.
And is there a difference for, say, performing at, say, an RTX, which is live, as opposed to in that comfort zone of recording something with Achievement Hunter? Was that a stage you had to get used to in a way, like a new level of live performance? Or do you feel that the work you did at Achievement Hunter?
Right. It's certainly different, but a lot of the traits carry over. There's some of us that work better in front of live audiences than others. Because a live audience, it's kind of like there's a 7th person in the group and the audience is their own person.
See, I think personally I find it very intimidating doing live, whereas when I do, because we do stuff on YouTube, but it's like when I'm doing things on YouTube, I'm in my comfort zone. I'm recording in my setup, and I feel fine doing that. But for example, like I'm internally freaking out right now because this is such a different situation for me.
Yeah.
I wondered if, like, going into it, and I don't know how long it would have been from when you got hired to doing your, like,
I honestly couldn't tell you. The first thing I did that was in front of like a real live, because I mean, like, I was at RTXs like as soon as I was hired. You know, obviously everyone who works at Rooster Teeth is in an RTX. The first time I was really in front of like a live audience that was specifically there just to watch stuff was like the first Let's Play Live, where Matt and I were pushing Michael and Gavin around on a cart while they played Surgeon Simulator. They were on like a gurney, and like, you know, we did that. But honestly, a live audience, for some reason for me, has never freaked me out. And like, I understand that that's different from person to person. I can see how it's extremely intimidating, but you always fear the worst. And one of the first times I was in front of a live audience was one of the first RTXs I went to. I had just released the TOP song. And they said, hey, how about at the Achievement Hunter panel, you run out and perform the song, like, because it's brand new and you can go out and do it live in front of this Achievement Hunter crowd, they'll love it. And I'm like, sure. So the song kicks in, I run out, I start to do the rap, and the mic's not working. So I'm out there trying to do this rap, and no one can hear me. And I go through like a verse and a half. I'm like trying to get it going.
I commit to it.
I'm still trying to go. So I like throw the mic down. I get a mic off of the desk where we're about to do the panel, and I managed to do like the last verse. And so in my brain, I'm like, nothing can go worse than that for me, like at a live show. And
I mean, don't say that at the start.
I know, I don't want, you know, I don't want to bank on that, but at the same time, shows like Let's Play Lives and RTXs, we have these fans that are so dedicated and they love the content. They all love the same thing, that even if we go up on stage and say a game doesn't work, or we can't play, or something doesn't work, we can easily riff off of each other for 15 minutes and make them laugh and make them still have fun. So that confidence really helps the whole live show thing.
Well, going into, so I guess still sticking on the theme of community, we went out because we wanted to try and shoot around last night. We wanted to try and capture, just because there's a lot of like community events going on.
Right.
Meet up. And we met up with several groups yesterday who, they don't really know each other in real life, but have this like really close friendship online, and they credit Rooster Teeth for that. Did you experience something similar, and you know, before joining up, and how much sort of praise do you put on events like this, because this is where they all meet up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know some of my best friends because of things like that. I mean, back when Community Hunter was a really like tight-knit group, I, you know, started, all you would do is send messages to other people that you'd see make community videos and be like, hey, do you want to do a video together? Because it was always better with 2 people rather than 1. So that's how I met, you know, Matt Bragg. You know, I just messaged Axial Matt because I knew he made a lot of videos. Reached was Trevor. So we started talking. Dan, who's the head guardian here, he was hybrid on the channel. I made a ton of videos with him. And so then that sort of carried, we never met each other. Matt had this horrific habit of anytime I wanted to do a video with him, I'd phone him up on Skype, because that's how I'd get the audio, is I'd record our conversation on Skype. And the video was 3 minutes long, 3-4 minutes, and we'd be talking for an hour and a half. Matt just could talk and talk and talk and talk until I'm finally like, Matt, I need to leave, I'm sorry. And so when RTX rolled around, you know, I went to a Community Hunter panel, I saw Matt on the panel, and I was like talking to him and stuff. And then as I'm like standing in line to ask a question or whatever, I hear like, hey, Jerem, because I was Jerem6401. So I'm like, hey, Jerem, and I look over and it's Trevor. And I'm like, oh, Reached, like I recognize you from your picture and stuff like that. And then Trevor and I spent the whole RTX together, just because we knew each other from online and from this community, even though we had never met. But it was still just like, it was like I'd known this guy forever.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of like YouTube channels and things like that. They all have this this community. I don't think I've ever experienced or seen anything quite like the Rooster Teeth community in the way that the sort of the events and the charity work that they do just in the community that's not necessarily come from an organized event. It's they've done it themselves.
Right.
And I find all that really, really interesting to see the amount of work. And then you get like obviously on Twitter with like all the fan art and it goes to such like extreme lengths, and I find it absolutely amazing.
The community constantly is blowing me away with everything that they do and the groups that they form. And I'm actually working on something right now as well, possibly a future production that is based so much on things that the community has done, things like fan arts and fan fictions and things like that. And like, so I'm always constantly watching the work that the community is doing, and it's mind-boggling how much effort people put in just because they love the content and they want to add to it in their own way. It's just crazy.
Okay, I think we are running low on time, but so I actually put out a question or a post on Facebook, because the initial plan was we were going to try and do some floor interviews and get a load of questions from attendees to try and pitch.
Right.
But because of the time of this.
Right, this is like as RTX starting.
No opportunity to do that. So the main thing that came up when I did pitch that post was your book. And everyone sort of like was interested in the inspiration. For me, I've started writing recently, and I find it's very intimidating starting writing.
Yes.
To the point where you almost talk yourself out of it on a regular basis. So I've got a friend who his theory is that everyone has at least one good book in them.
Yes.
I think that a good point to maybe end on would be if you could give advice to anyone who's considering writing but talks himself out of it because maybe they're intimidated, maybe they think it's going to fail.
Yes.
What advice could you give to someone?
So writing wise, it's very important that when you have a story in mind that it's gonna really overflow you if you just attempt to sit down and say, you know, once upon a time, and then just write the book. That's gonna really come back on you. What you need to do is make sure you know, spend some time thinking about the characters, thinking about the universe that it's set in, outlining the plot, what happens, you know, in the full plot, add in things in the middle, outline that chapter by chapter, and just make sure you have a nice skeleton first. Then that's when you can start jumping in and writing chapter by chapter. Even for me, and I recommend this for anybody, I started writing by writing fan fictions.
Okay.
I used to write fan fictions all the time. I wrote Fallout ones, Left 4 Dead ones, because I didn't have to worry about making a universe or making characters. That was all done. I just had to make the plot and make it interesting. It's a great way to practice. And so when I wrote my first book that came out about a year ago, you know, it's something I've been working on for a very long time, so it was kind of a bit easier for me to really just sit down and go from chapter to chapter to chapter to chapter. And now I'm like a chapter or so away from finishing my second one. And it's the other thing you got to remember is that it's your book, your own work is never going to be at a point where you think it's perfect.
Yeah.
You are always going to want to improve it.
Self-doubt.
You're always going to want to add something to it. But you just need to get it to a point where you are personally happy with it.
Yeah.
Let someone else read it. Let other people read it. Give you feedback. Take feedback. You know, take criticism because it's extremely important. And then just sometimes you just have to go for it. You go, this is as good as I think that I can make this right now without driving myself insane. Release that, see how it does. And if it doesn't do super well, learn from it and come back and do another one. And yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. I have seen Lawrence sneak in, so.
All right. Oh, nice. Oh, good. Hey, you want to play Forza in a little bit?
What?
You want to play Forza in a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Would
oh,
it be possible to actually just get a thumbnail shot
totally
over
fine.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.